Hello, everybody. This is No Chick Flick Moments. Hi.
Hi.
I am your co-host, Remy.
And I'm your other co-host, B.
Welcome to our Supernatural Watchcast.
Yes.
Yes.
Here we are, right at the beginning, Season 1, Episode 6.
Skin is the
Skin,
name.
not skins.
Skins is I've been calling it Skins all week, and B never misses an opportunity to call me out on it. So
I am agreeing with you is what I'm doing. the 7 S's I send in a message, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So Season 1, Episode 6, Skin, aka the Shapeshifter episode, well beloved, very well gift in the fandom.
Some excellent character moments and some batshit tomfoolery.
Yep. So yeah, you ready to talk about it, B?
Yeah.
All right. This is episode 6. This is episode 6. It was written by John Shiban and directed by Robert Duncan McNeil. Its original air date was October 18th, 2005.
Okay.
Yeah. The synopsis for this episode reads: Sam and Dean come to the aid of Sam's old college buddy after he is accused of a murder he swears he didn't commit. The brothers discover a shapeshifter is adopting the likenesses of others and murdering people. The brothers, possessive, race to stop the shapeshifter takes a terrifying turn when he shifts into the likeness of Dean.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun! And we open this episode in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yep. We see a woman bound, bloodied, and gagged inside of a house, and a SWAT team outside silently approaching through the building.
Do they typically call in SWAT for a home invasion 911 call? I don't know. That seems
don't even know.
Well, you know.
It makes for some pretty cool visuals, though.
Like, it does.
The way that we are now skulking through the hallways, silently trying to find where this invader is, and they turn the corner in the bedroom, and a man is trying to escape through the second-story patio doors. But when he is told to freeze and turn around, we see it is Dean standing there with his arms raised, holding a knife.
Yes. And did you mention that as the SWAT team is going through the house, they do find a woman bound and gagged and beaten and bloody, tied to a chair?
I mean, I did mention she was there.
Okay. I don't listen to you, B. I mean, I just,
No worries.
I just wait for my own turn to talk.
I'm painting the wallpaper here. You don't have to pay attention.
Well, so we know this. We know what has happened, but we are surprised to see who supposedly committed this crime.
It's Dean,
yes.
Or is it? So let's go back. 1 week earlier at a gas station. Sam is reading emails on his phone, which looks so painful. Oh my god. He has a little touch pen and he's tapping the surface. There's this email from December 5th, 2005 from his old college buddy, and Dean is surprised that A, Sam is keeping up with these people, and B, that he's lying to them, saying, I'm just on a road trip with my brother, I have to figure shit out after Jess died, and he's not giving them more details to what is the truth going on in his life.
Right. And when Dean realizes that Sam has kept in contact with his old friends from college, he asks, what do you tell them? What can they possibly know about you? How can you maintain a friendship when you're lying to them? It just doesn't compute with him. He knows the difficulty of living this life, and he has just learned to not get too close to anybody, but here Sam is trying to maintain those connections, even though he can't tell them the whole truth.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what we discussed in the pilot, where Sam feels confident in living a double life and not seeing any negative consequences to this. You know, as long as he's able to maintain the stories that he's telling, what's the problem in telling them? But Dean actually has a problem with the fact that, you know, he's committing the sin of omission. If you're not telling them everything, then you are lying to them, Sam. And it is easier to tell the truth, but if that's not the option, then cut these people out of your life.
Yeah. Dean thinks that if you can't be completely open with someone, then you're not really friends with them. So that's why Dean doesn't have friends, can't have friends. And that's what he's trying to tell Sam. But Sam just, you know, he's trying to maintain those connections, and he thinks that Dean is just being a loner, but
it's something really telling about their characters that Sam is comfortable with these shades of gray with the people in his life, where he thinks, you know, as long as what I am saying serves us, then it's okay. Whereas Dean, we see, actually has this very stark black or white vision of what it means to have someone in your life. And he is, you know, not in so many words, saying that he only wants people in his life that he can be honest with and that are honest with him in return. So hearing his brother is not in the same boat is kind of bristly to him.
Yeah, but at the same time, Sam does, we see in this episode, he does genuinely care for the people that he's considering friends here. He wants to keep those connections. He does care about these people. And it would hurt to have to sever all those connections.
Yeah.
So, it's neither of them are, yeah.
It's interesting seeing the way that they approach the idea of friendships and relationships with this light on it.
Yeah. Man, we open up with a pretty
illuminating
a
bro
doozy,
talk.
A doozy of a scene, all couched in sarcasm and brotherly banter. Oh, but Sam's Blackberry Palm, Be Still My Heart. I love it so much.
I knew you would.
With its stylus and its scroll wheel. You know, my first phone was a BlackBerry Pearl, and it was amazing.
So you're really having memory lane pop up here. Gosh. Yeah, his email message, the one that he is the most alarmed by is from a Rebecca Warren saying that her brother has been falsely accused of murder in St. Louis. And Dean figures, okay, cool story, not our problem. But Sam is like, this is a friend, so I'm making it our problem. We're going to go look into this.
Yeah. And Dean's like, St. Louis is 400 miles behind us. We just came from that way, basically. And I'm like, Dean, it's 400 miles. It's like 6 hours. It's not going to kill you. And also, do you have somewhere better to be?
Well, it sounded like they were planning on going to Arizona. Maybe there was the case there that they were looking at, or who knows what sort of lead they were trying to pursue. Maybe it was dad related, maybe it wasn't, but Sam definitely puts the urgent flag on this conversation and overrides whatever they were previously going to do.
Yep. But, you know, Dean agrees reluctantly, and they head to St. Louis. Yeah.
So outside of Becky's house, Sam is the one who gets a warm hug and invitation inside, and Dean's kind of standing there as an afterthought, being introduced to her as the brother. And as they start discussing what went on for Zach, Sam leads with this fib saying, you know, we can help you because Dean's a cop. And Dean's face when he hears this is just like, oh, okay, we're starting off with lies right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then as soon as he gets a moment alone with Sam, Dean calls him out on it too, to say, oh yeah, we're really shooting the straight and narrow. You're an A+ friend, Sam. But yeah, when Sam does greet Becky at the door, the things that they're talking about and the way that they greet each other, I mean, it seems like they've known each other for years. And I think that it highlights how Sam can be a man of two worlds, where Dean is really really bristling to see that attitude from him in that relationship, because to him it's just a house of cards.
Yeah. And I think it also speaks to Dean being shaken in the faith he has in the people who care about him, because if they're able to lie to other people, who's to say they're not lying to him? And we'll see later in the episode that at least from what the shifter digs out of his psyche, that Dean is really almost fatalistic, saying that of course he's going to be left alone. Of course people are going to leave him. And there's a lot of insecurities in him. And I think that we don't get into it textually, but the way that he is acting towards these lies does feed into this image of, he doesn't like it because it makes him insecure in his relationships with people who can do those lies so easily.
Right. One of the running threads in this episode is that Dean is lonely, and we can call to other things that we learn later in the series that support that, and what the shapeshifter brings up even just in this episode. But there's a big contrast to some of the things that we learn later, to how the front Dean was putting up with Sam in the first scene of this episode, where Sam says, so what, I should just cut everyone out? And Dean smiles, shrugs, and is like, yeah, it's got to be that way. But he's very cavalier about it.
Yeah, and he kind of has to be, because he figures that's what's going to happen to him eventually, so why get attached if they're just gonna leave?
And okay, twist my arm, we'll talk about it now. Okay, I think about Cassie.
I know. I kept on thinking about her too.
Because Cassie is someone that we meet later in this season, and really I think the biggest case study in what Dean's talking about here, where there was this gap in Dean's life in between Sam leaving for college and John disappearing, that we know Dean was either alone with John or just straight alone. And there was a lot that happened to Dean in that time that Sam doesn't know about, John doesn't know about. And one of those things is that he tried to build a meaningful relationship with this woman.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he tried to be truthful with her, she left him for it.
Yeah.
And we know that was relatively recently.
Yeah, it's within the last 2 years that he fell hard and fast and then got burnt in this manner.
And we don't, and I don't think that there's anybody else, no friends. There are a couple Hunter acquaintances that he greets with familiarity, but either he just knows them in passing, or he's like borderline antagonistic with them. But
yeah,
as far
like
as
they're business associates,
right,
more than they are actual friendships.
Right. As far as actual friendships and relationships in his life, he doesn't have anyone. He has his dad and he has Sam, and if that's all that he has, then we learn in this episode that's what can hurt him the most.
Yeah. If Mom died, Sam left, John left, Cassie left, then that's the only pattern that he knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right now, he's just,
He's a detective from Arizona,
right.
and he'll totally look at the case.
Sam says to Rebecca that they can help. She's unsure about, taking them to the crime scene, but they reassure her that it's okay. And Sam says that they have to find a way to prove that Zach is innocent because he knows that Zach didn't do this.
Yeah. And so when she takes them to the crime scene, they snoop around inside. At this point, we know that Zach had an alibi with her the night that his girlfriend Emily died, aka was murdered. There is some footage of what appears to be him entering the building before the death took place, but he was with his sister until past midnight, so that 2-hour window he was accounted for with her. And in this crime scene, this is when Beck tells us that, there's no forced entry. Emily let in her killer, and from all of this, it seems like the best that they're going to get is like some sort of plea for leniency. They're not going to get not guilty.
Yeah. And Sam and Dean are kind of looking around. Sam asks if there's anything else that Becky can think of that was out of the ordinary. If Zach didn't kill Amy, was it?
Emily,
then somebody did. So do you know anyone that could have done this or anything strange that's happened? And Becky says, well, there was a break-in to the house before the murder, about a week before the murder, and nothing was stolen except for some of Zach's clothes.
Yeah, which is super weird, but the police are kind of like, well, whatever. There's petty crime all over the place.
Right. And the other odd thing is that while they're in the house, there is a dog that we hear barking, and we see that it's the neighbor's dog who is standing at the fence and barking and growling and just generally acting very aggressive. And Becky says, he used to be the sweetest dog, but right around the time of the murder, now he's like this. And Sam and Dean know that the dog as an animal may have been more attuned to specifically the supernatural. So this is one piece of evidence that is kind of swaying Dean over to Sam's side of things. Maybe this is their kind of case.
Yeah. Sam says as much, we've looked into less, and Dean can't disagree. I mean, just last week it was eyeballs that melted in someone's head. They're like, well, yeah, I'm not a doctor. That seems weird. So here it's like, I'm not a vet, but that seems weird.
Right. And two places at once. If true,
this is huge.
Exactly. We also, in the house, we see a photo of Sam, Becky, and Zach on the fridge, and they look just like a gaggle of friends, happy from a happier time. And Sam pauses in front of the photo and looks very forlorn. Maybe I took it as him missing that easy life that he had, and that companionship that he could share with others.
Definitely. Because this is an image from before Jess's death. This is an image of before times when his life was on track to being what he wanted outside of hunting the supernatural. And then here he is now. Zach's life has imploded just the same as how Sam's life has imploded. Worse because, he's in custody. And, happiness never lasts long, it seems.
Yeah.
But this picture that you're referencing, we get to use it as a visual reference to who Zach is, and we cut into the next scene, someone who looks exactly like him watching this couple part ways at the threshold of their house, and his eyes flash silver as he smiles at watching the girl intently.
Yes. Yeah, we hear from the couple that the man is going out of town for a night on a business trip, and then we get this ominous scene where he is where the creature is revealed.
Yeah. So we know Zach's in custody. If we're seeing him out and about, then that's lending credence to the fact of, could be a dark double. And they go away with Becky and her stolen footage from that night to review who entered into Emily's building. And as they are checking it over, the video is authentic. Sam sees something, and he kind of asks Becky for a couple trips to the kitchen so that he and Dean can privately talk about what he saw on the film.
Yes. Can you get us some beers? Maybe a couple sandwiches too. And I'm like, Oh God, hide me.
Ugh. And then she's like, what do you think this is, Hooters? And Dean's like, God, I wish. And I'm like, God, I wish I was dead.
Yeah. So this is one of the lines in this episode that happened.
Yeah, I mean, spoilers for 20 minutes into this, but the shifter makes a comment that Dean would sleep with Becky if given the chance, and in order to give evidence for this comment, we had Dean saying things like, Sam goes, yeah, it's for my old friend Becky, and then he's like, oh, is she hot? And I'm like, okay, relevance. And then now this Hooters comment, like they're doing things to remind us that, Dean would bone her if given the chance.
Yeah.
Cute.
Very cute. And with the with what the shifter has to say later in the episode, I was really giving this one a hard think, because right before we started the call, I was asking B, do you think that this was supposed to be like kind of tongue in cheek, like self-aware for what they're saying here, or are they really just that tone deaf? But 2005, guys.
And more than that, we're talking about Supernatural here. The depth from this show comes from the fandom more times than not. So trying to say, they were being tongue-in-cheek, they were doing this. I'm like, this is Bush administration. This is misogyny. Like there's a culture on television right now in 2005 where guy characters are expected to make comments like this and get away with it. That's just the way it is. And watching it 15, 16 years later, you're like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah. Well, it is particularly heavy-handed in this episode, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a consequence of the writer or the director or what, but,
it really felt like they had to get it out on like a club foot. Like they just thumped us over the head with it, because like in the second episode we saw Dean being charming, kind of flirty, but he's not going anywhere with it, even though this character is someone that is maybe more attainable than, hey, my little brother's really close friend who I just decided that I want to bang. Yeah, I don't feel like it was deftly handed, and I don't even know if it was necessary, because the shifter could have just been like, I think Becky is looking really nice now. And like, you could have just left it be the shifter's behavior, but it was an intentional choice to have this be informed by Dean's own id.
Yes, especially since we learn from the shifter that he is taking on more and more of Dean himself the longer that he stays in Dean's skin. So I guess we had to see it in both like you said, Dean's id. But yeah, we also got a lot of torture
I'm like
porn.
looking at the camera and I'm just choices.
Choices. Lots of torture porn this episode, so.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I actually had a real issue with seeing the shifter as Dean attacking Becky, and like they cut before he starts beating her, but it's very apparent that it's there, and there's just a lot of subtext around seeing all of these women bound, bloodied, and gagged. They're not just bound and gagged, they have been sliced into, they have been roughed up, and it's just
and we also
does not feel great.
Yeah, it does not feel great. And we also know that we know enough about the shifter's motivations that it's just even more uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, targeting couples, taking on the figure of one of the couple's members. I'm losing track of my nouns. But like choosing to be one person in a partnership and destroying the other person is a level of therapy that I cannot comprehend. Like I don't know how to psychoanalyze that.
Well, he gets to treat Becky as his captive psychiatrist in a few minutes. So
oh gosh, and that conversation is something.
Yeah. Well, so they Sam and Dean get Becky out of the room so they can talk freely. And Sam saw something in the tape. He saw the person who looks like Zach as he approached the front door to the house. He faces the camera and his eyes flash.
Yep. So they make a little comment, lore drop, that this idea that the camera catches your true essence, it's a glimpse into your soul. And so this could be a doppelganger. This is some sort of dark double. They're now wondering has taken over Zach's visage.
Mm-hmm. Or a doppelganger, as I wrote it on my notes.
Doppelganger.
Dobble.
A
doppelganger.
That's very cute.
I did it wrong. Anyways, so
we cut back to the couple, Alex and Lindsay, and Alex has returned home early and he's calling through the house for her. But he finds blood on the wall and soon enough finds Lindsay tied up and terrified of him.
Yes, terrified of him. Please don't hurt me anymore. Go away. Leave me alone. But, Alex is just trying to free her, trying to care for her.
Very, very minimally, though, because he hears a noise in another part of the house and then just leaves. Like, I'm, pretty convinced she was still tied up.
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, yep, again, choices.
Well, it's not safe yet, but he goes and he tries to figure out what has happened, and his likeness as the shapeshifter emerges from the shadows, and Alex is surprised to see himself bloodied holding a baseball bat.
Yep.
Surprised
He's even more surprised when he starts getting bashed in with it.
Right. Alex gets clubbed and the screen goes black.
Yeah. So let's cut to the next morning, 5:30 a.m. Sam and Dean have determined that there's no sign on the footage of this double leaving, so he probably went out the back way where the camera isn't, and the cops aren't thinking in the same form of logic that they are, so they're going to be the first ones to check for potential leads as to where this double escaped to after the murder.
Well, and I'll just call this lazy writing because actually no, I don't. I won't be so negative. There's a bit of a gap here because Dean says, "Oh, that's a good thought, Sam. He might have left from the back, and the cops wouldn't think to look there because they think that Zach never left. But we have a camera on the front door of this house, and if Zach entered at 10:30 and Zach entered at 12:30, did they not think that was weird?"
Yeah, like,
in different clothes.
did he just, go out the back exit and then come back again? Like, it could be. I thought the same thing while watching it. I'm like, okay, what kind of backflip can I perform without throwing my back out?
Please don't.
And I think it just would be that they're like, this is an open and shut case. We have the murderer going in. Somehow he comes in a second time, but all he did was come back after he committed the crime and try to act like he didn't do it. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to disparage. I just feel like in this circumstance, they probably saw an open and shut case, and this fictional cop that I'm disparaging was just taking a shortcut.
I mean, not even Becky mentions it, but all right, that's fine.
Well, there's a lot of like little holes in this episode that we just don't draw attention to.
Look over here, where Sam is investigating the back door, the back alley, and he notices a bloody handprint on one of the telephone poles by the sidewalk.
Yeah, and we don't even really talk about it much because for some reason an ambulance is going down this back alley.
And for some reason Sam and Dean just decide to follow it.
Yeah, they're like, we love chasing ambulances.
Second career path.
Oh, gosh. And then once they get there, Sam, like, goes and takes off, and he's looking in the back alley again because they hear what happened. They're like, yeah, this husband went nuts and attacked his wife. And they're like, hey, we've heard this story before. And so when Sam goes to the back to investigate, Dean talks to some of the first responders, and when they regroup, they have some more theories at play.
Right. So Dean has gathered Alex's side of the story, which was that he came home and a double of himself beat him and his wife.
Yeah.
They think he's psycho.
Yeah. But if this is two cases of duplicated people attacking their spouses or their partners, we have a really solid lead here. And Sam is like, okay, shapeshifters, do you know of any in the lore that could fly? Because this is the second spot we went to check where the trail just dies. There's no leads beyond a certain point.
Right. And Dean says no, but if not up, then what about down? And they are standing over a manhole to the sewers. So that's a lead.
Yep. So let's go snooping in the sewers. Not my first choice. I mean, but they are figuring that the sewer system is some sort of fast travel way that this killer could be navigating the city. They find a couple piles of goopy melting flesh and hair, which is extremely tasteful.
Yes. Yeah. Sam and Dean think so as well. But this is definitely something that is something. So whatever this is, it's probably using the sewers to it's probably using the sewers around this area. They already have speculated that the sewers probably run past Zach's house as well. So I don't know what happens. They were they say that
I'm like, it's a little weird because they decided to go into the sewers. Then they were like, yeah, it looks like it's a shifter, even though they had decided on the surface it was a shifter. So they go back to the surface, and then they're like, let's get weapons, and then go back in the sewer again.
You're so right. That's why I got tripped up because so now they have actual physical evidence that something's going on down in the sewers. They know what trail to follow. So they're back at the car, and they know no matter what kind of shifter it is, a skinwalker, a what
Werewolf.
a werewolf, whatever it is, one thing is foolproof, and that is a silver bullet to the heart.
Yep. A silver bullet.
Uh-huh.
I guess the reason why we had to have this scene is because Becky calls now.
Right.
And she is pissed. She is accusing Sam of lying because there is no Dean Winchester, Arizona detective. And if they just entered the sealed crime scene for the hell of it, then that could ruin Zach's case. And she gets all of this out and then just hangs up on him.
Yeah. Back off, Sam. I really don't need your help anymore.
Yeah. And Sam is pretty bummed out about this, but Dean is trying to reassure him that, if they knew the real you, they'd be freaked. We are not like other people, and this gig is not without its perks, aka hands his brother a gun. This'll make you feel better.
Yeah. You got a
like,
gun, so you're cool, dude.
Yeah. And I'm like, Sam, how did you see this going? I think he's just so confident in telling lies that it didn't occur to him that, Becky might want to double check what he's saying.
Yeah. I think that it comes easy to him, but now that he's actually caught out on it, he has to face the consequences, and this isn't like interviewing random librarian number 3.
Mm-hmm.
This is a friend that it's real betrayal, and that's what Dean's trying to say. You can't do both.
Yeah. If you're trying to get away with bigger and bigger lies, eventually they'll come out. And what do you expect besides an implosion at that point?
Mm-hmm. But you get a gun, so it's okay.
Yeah, let's go shoot things. You'll feel better.
Mm-hmm. Back in the sewers.
Yeah, we are snooping with our flashlights out. And they find more sheddings and a pile of clothes, and they think they must be getting close to the lair. But when Sam turns around to look at Dean, there is the shifter behind him. And this shifter kind of shoves Dean down, injures his left arm, and then runs before Sam can actually shoot him with the gun.
Right. Sam and Dean pursue. We see the shifter as Alex exit the sewers and run to get lost in this park. And by the time Sam and Dean also get out from the manhole, they've lost him. So they decide to split up, search the area, and then meet back at the car.
Yeah. So Sam's being a little bit more subtle with his gun, although it still looks very scary just to see a man with his hand stuffed Napoleon style into his shirt.
Uh-huh.
But Dean isn't even trying. He's like, I'm going to run with my gun out and people can be rightfully freaked.
Right. I also thought that it was interesting. I don't know. I think that one thing that they're both doing is you see that they're not just looking for Alex. They're aware that the shifter could be anybody. Mm-hmm. So they're watching everybody for suspicion or for a reaction. And they're going about it in different ways, but I guess Dean is more comfortable to be at the ready.
Yeah, he might be like, I'm going to flush you out with intimidation, whereas Sam is trying to be more subtle, but ultimately when they reunite, he doesn't catch the way that this Dean, his eyes flash silver as a vehicle drives by.
Yes.
So they return to the Impala, and Sam is surprised when Dean asks if he's got the keys.
Well, I mean, Sam had the keys, so I had kind of the same thought, like, oh, did the shifter not get Dean's jacket, or what. Was Dean supposed to have the keys? But no, I read that initial suspicion from Sam to really just Sam being aware that, again, this shifter could be anybody. So he is subtly testing Dean, who is not Dean, but we don't know that yet. He doesn't know that yet. By asking, hey, didn't Dad hunt a shifter in San Antonio? And not the shifter responds, oh, no, that was in Austin, and it wasn't a shifter. It was a psychic projection of a likeness of somebody else. Oh yeah. So he's reassured